Hi, Kat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I want to show you how to make this card using the Hydrangea Haven's products. Now, you have until 30 June to pick up this paper. This paper is fantastic. This paper is part of the suite, which is going to be retired. So, run, don't walk to your computer and put it in order and get some of this great paper. Let me show you a card that we're going to make with it. I'm going to take some of this paper and we're going to make these wonderful little hydrangeas. And then I'm going to just use basically a piece of Whisper White. We're going to create this wonderful card right here. Okay? And this is how we're going to do it. Let's go ahead and get a piece of Whisper White, and this is cut at 5.5 and 4 1/4. It's cut long ways. I'm going to grab some green. I believe this is Granny Apple Green, and I have a piece of cardstock. This is where I cut the original piece that I used for this card, but I'm going to make sure that with this other piece of paper, I'm going to have that very, very handy embossing the multi-purpose adhesive sheet. Comes in very, very handy. So you definitely want to pick that up. So I'm going to put that aside. I have a piece of my designer series paper, and I have purposely cut out, this is 12 by 12, I purposely cut out around the wonderful blossoms, because when we take this set, and this is available in the current catalog, you're going to have these dies here and then these wonderful stamps. Now we're going to use the leaf stamp because we're going to do some leaf stamping. I'm just going to go ahead and put that on the block right now. I've already done a sentiment, which is this one here, to an incredible woman, that we're going to cut out with a die. And that's really kind of all that we're going to need from the stamp set. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to take this die from the dies, and this is going to cut out our hydrangea. I'm also going to take out this little piece here, and this is going to cut out a series of little hydrangeas, and this piece here is going to cut out our leaves. If you hear a bunch of noise in the background, that's because my little kitty Mittens is having a good time playing around with all my paper and boxes that I have here in my craft studio. Okay, so having taken out these things, and the last thing we're going to need is we're going to need some of these soft pastels. These are also in the annual catalog. And I'm using the scallop contours, and that is what I use to cut out this little piece of cardstock for my sentiment. And I just want to show you the two inks that I'm using are the Mossy Meadow and Misty Moon. So I think I covered everything. So let's go ahead and get started. Now I have to rave about my little mini die cut machine that I have here, because I absolutely love it. I don't have much space on in my craft room, so this is absolutely perfect for small spaces. And I know that there's a lot of you out there with small spaces, so please consider that. I bought the replacement to my Big Shot because I moved, and I didn't take my Big Shot with me. It basically kind of started falling apart, and I had had that over 6 years. So I decided to treat myself and to replace my die cut machines, and I'm really glad I did. So I'm going to go ahead, and they're nicely labeled. So I've got like 1 and 2. I'm going to put those there. I'm going to put my paper, and then I'm going to put my die right in the middle of my paper, maybe off to the side, because I have some plans for that. Then I'm going to put my 2 in here, and I'm going to go ahead and just run that through, and boom, there it is. So I have my first flower, and I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out another flower, and I'm going to kind of use these pieces here. This is lovely paper. You don't want to waste an inch of it. You want to make sure you get every single inch out of it for your project. So I'm going to put this one here. I'm going to grab my die, and again I'm going to kind of put this towards the edge here so I can leave some of this flower here because I have a plan for that. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there, and again it is just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so there's that one. So let's pull this one out. Okay, so I have that one. And then my final one is going to be this blue one here. And I could probably just put this one very neatly right there. And it does fit. And we're just going to back that this way. And there we go. So let me pull this one out. And I'm just going to pop that up with my... So I have these 3 blossoms right there. So I'm going to put that away. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these kind of flowered pieces and parts here. I'm going to kind of line them up. And I had another piece right here. I'm just going to kind of line them up like this. And I am going to lay this piece right across these pieces and parts. I'm going to make sure that I don't, like this. Okay, so I have my color right here, and I'm going to lay my my die, so I kind of straddle that. Okay, do you see how I kind of straddle that? Let me just move it in here. So I've just kind of laid my designer series paper, and then I'm going to grab this, pinch it down, hold it down, and I'm going to make sure that and what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to make sure I get every little piece that I can. So let me show you what I did. So here are my 2 pieces of paper, and I just straddled it, and I got all these nice little blossoms, and I'm going to put those aside right there. So I just kind of lined it up like this, right, so that I could ensure to get all to use all of the paper, because I don't want to waste any of this paper, because it's retiring and that's it. If you don't get it now, you're not going to get it anymore, and you might as well make sure that when you're using beautiful designer series paper that you use every piece. Okay, so then I'm going to line this one up right here, which is at the edge of my adhesive sheet, and we're going to go ahead and cut this one out. I'm just going to slip that in there, and you can see just how really easy it is. And this doesn't want to go. So I have to kind of move this in so that it kind of, my sandwich, there we go, my sandwich gets pinched. Okay. And there we go. I've got this piece cut out right here. Let me go ahead and pop this out. And I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to move my dies over here. All right, so I've cut out all the pieces and parts that I want cut out except for, and this is the sentiment. So I'm going to lay this here. I'm going to go over to my And this is a scallop contours. And I love this little piece right here. I'm going to grab this little piece. I'm going to lay it right there. Now, if it wants to maybe travel on you, just grab a piece of a sticky, right? A Post-it. Make sure that you get it in there. There we go. I hope that made it all the way up. I didn't get all of it. I got part of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just cut off. Oh, that whole thing didn't do it. So I'm going to have to restamp this. Doggone it. So let me go ahead and grab my stamp set here. And here's my stamp. Grab my block. And I'm going to have to bring in my piercing mat. I got everything rather tenuously perched there. And let's make sure that this is going to fit right there. And it will. And then I'm going to grab my Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to stamp To an Incredible Woman. Boom. Okay, let me move this back out of the way. Lock here. Let's bring this back into my frame. Okay, let's try this again. And pinch that right there. And voila, we have a sentiment. So I'm going to take my sample, and I have all my pieces and parts. And with my sample, what I want to do is I want to take my leaf die here, and I'm going to stamp it 3 times. I'm going to stamp it here, here, and here. And I'm going to use my Mossy Meadow. Now to do this, I'm going to have to bring in my stamping piercing mat because this is a photopolymer stamp. I'm going to open up my card because I'm doing this directly on a piece of Whisper White. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to grab just a piece of scrap paper right here. And I'm going to ink it up. Okay, so I've got everything inked up. And I'm going to stamp it right about there. Now, what I've done, and I have it right here, is I created a mask. And the way I created the mask is I simply stamped this on Post-it note, and then I cut it out, and it created this mask that I'm now going to lay over that piece. I'm then going to take this stamp, and I'm going to stamp, and I'm going to stamp off, because I'm going to put my next hydrangea, it's going to go right there. And then I'm going to stamp, and I'm going to stamp off because my next hydrangea is going to go right there. So I've created these 3 leaves, these 3 stems that I'm going to use for my hydrangea. I'm just wiping off my stamp. Okay, so I'm going to put that stamp out of the way. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my small block here that I used to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to put my sentiment down, and I'm going to pick up this small piece right here. Now, because this is photopolymer, the first time you use the stamp, I recommend you kind of grab one of these white erasable erasers and just kind of rub it across that stamp so you can get that ooze off of there. And it's also kind of good for rubbing across to get any ink that you may have gotten on your piece. Okay, then I'm going to grab my um, Misty Moonlight, right? Is that Misty? Yep, Misty Moonlight. And I'm just going to basically stamp, stamp, stamp off. And I'm just going to make sure I have that. Stamp, stamp off, stamp, stamp off, stamp off, stamp off. And I can slip this paper right in here. Gotta make sure I don't. And there you go. That's all I wanted to do was create a bit of a background. Okay, so I can just clean that off, and I can take it off, and I can put it. And I love these new cases because they have the printout of the image is on the paper now. So you just basically just lay it right inside your case. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to take this green leaf right here, and we're going to, I'm kind of trying to separate it here. And what I want to do is I want to pull this off. Let me get that. There we go. Trying to get this started. That's what we want right there. And if I have this little piece, I'm going to pull that little piece out. And now I'm going to lay this. It's going to go laid right over. And I don't even have to put this exactly on the line. Let me see if I can move in a little bit. I don't even have to put it exactly on that line. I'm going to maybe offset it a little bit. Like that. And there you go. So that is our leaf for our first hydrangea. Now I'm going to grab these hydrangeas, and the way that the stamp set is that, or rather the die, is that it'll cut all these little pieces. But in order to make that more effective, I'm just going to roll these things up like this. Okay, so I'm rolling my hydrangea up. And when I do that, look what it does. It kind of makes that kind of pop a little bit. You see how it kind of makes all those edges. There we go. Kind of makes all those edges kind of soften. And now it's not as stiff. It looks more like a nice fluffy flower. And if you want to, you can turn it and just kind of work it like that. Okay, So now I want to put my blue in the middle. I like my dark one on top, and I like my light one on the bottom. So I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to grab some snail, and I'm just going to kind of put the snail like that, and then we're going to put it right here. Okay, there's my fold of my card. And I can always just go and kind of pick up some of that. Then I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to do the same thing. Simply going to kind of put some snail in the back. And we're going to put that one right there, because our blue one's going to go right there. But the blue one, I'm going to pop this one up on dimensionals. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw 3 dimensionals there in the center. And there we go. And then I'm going to put this one right here. Now, remember we had these little ones over here? Well, we're going to pick these little ones up here. And I'm going to kind of bend them a little bit. And I'm going to grab a glue dot. And I have to kind of make that a little bit of a circle and just kind of stick it right there. And I'm just going to stick these kind of on my blossoms. And it doesn't matter really where you put them, but I kind of like to put the darker ones on the lighter blossom, like that. And I like to put the like, here's a nice dark one right here. Kind of bend that, make sure that that's kind of small. And you see how that kind of dark one kind of, you see what I'm trying to create here? I'm trying to create a little bit of extra dimension with my flower by putting these on there. Okay. I'm bending this. I'm grabbing a glue dot, kind of turn it into a little ball, putting it on the back. And I'm going to put that one right there. Okay. And I'm going to do the same, looking at the different colors. I'm going to do the same over here. Grab a glue dot, stick it on the back. Grab a glue dot, stick it on the back. You see how it's kind of puffing it up a bit? I got 2 greens. I'm going to put one of these right. Oh no, this is another. I'll put that one right over here. I'm basically just putting 3 on each blossom. But I'm going to go ahead and put 2 here, 3 there, and I'm going to put 1 more on my blue one. right like that. Okay, so you can kind of see how I've created. I'm going to turn this. I had to turn that. I had a fan going. I had to turn that off. So you kind of see how I've created this really nice kind of look on my card. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of, again, take my paper here. Let me pull out and put my glue dots away. I have a little sponge dauber here. And what I've done with this sponge dauber, I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way. What I've done with this sponge dauber is that this sponge dauber had some of the chalk on it. So I'm going to grab this chalk and I'm going to put it on this paper here. And then I'm going to grab another sheet and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put that around the edge of my card. Picking up the chalk and I'm just working it around the edge of my card. Hold that and just get along my crease right there. And that creates that kind of look. Isn't that pretty? So that is a way you can use your soft pastels from the annual catalog in coloring. So now all I have to do is I just have to pop on my sentiment right there. So I'm just going to grab some couple of dimensionals and there we go. We've just finished a card using our Hydrangea Haven there you go. Using the Hydrangea Haven set. Let me put this over here because it looks like there's Hydrangea set and the dies that come with it to create these cards with our Soft Pastels assortment and just some very easy stamping. And don't forget, go before the 30th of June and pick up a pack of that paper because the Hydrangea Haven Hydrangea Hill set, the whole collection, is going away. So this is Kat Chancellor from Stamp Art Connection at stampartconnection.com. Hope you like that, and blessings to you. Happy stamping. I'll see you again.